Regional Test Center program set up by the Department of Energy is a set of 6 geographically different outdoor test facilities for emerging solar technologies. The basic idea is that we test the same type of solar technologies in all different climates and see what works best in which climate.
Since we're a DOE regional test center, we have lots of important projects that we're constantly monitoring data on. We also have 1.1 megawatts of solar energy production happening here. So we have a lot of data being collected all the time.
The Louisiana Regional Test Center is using Ignition to provide the SCADA system for all of our test stands where we're testing all these different solar technologies. And it's been a little bit of a challenge with other vendors because we have so many different types of systems here. That's the nature of being a test lab, is that you're going to have lots of different types of systems. And every other vendor that we tried had trouble with that concept.
Previously, we did have a few monitoring systems set up collecting our data, but it wasn't in a centralized location, so all of our equipment and devices would communicate to different systems, so it was kind of hard to localize it and have access to it in one single place.
Before we switched over to Ignition, there was really no easy way for us to visualize our data. It was in databases being stored and collected, but there was no visualization of the day-to-day production, which kind of prevented us from picking up on if there were any issues unless somebody was actively looking at that data.
Our relationship with TIGA goes back quite a few years. We met and we talked about the possibility of setting up a workforce training pipeline that would feed potential workers to their business from our training program. So the idea was to help fulfill our needs for a robust SCADA system here at our facility and also train workers who could go work in that industry.
TIGA is a solutions integration firm that focuses on SCADA services in the industrial industries. We provide to multiple sectors, which is oil and gas, water, wastewater solutions, pharmaceutical, and beyond. We actually came in to assist with some other electrical services and PLC programming services, and we just so happened to see a cornerstone of like, hey, what's this HMI? What's this visualization? What are we using? And then the explanation of it's over here and over here and over there. That kind of jogged our integrator brain to say, like, hey, we can help out with this, and then it turned into we should get someone from the university to help out with this.
For us to get the most out of our Ignition license, it makes sense to have a dedicated student here whose sole purpose is to focus on and improve our Ignition system.
The internship program really came out of the minds of Dr. Chambers. His foremost request was that it would be someone here that could work alongside us and give direction.
What we've tried to do with the internship program is to have people start here who would be on our payroll, and then they would move to an internship with TIGA, and then hopefully they would end up as permanent employees. And when they start on our side, they're learning basic skills and they're getting interest in the field. They get trained by industry professionals while they're still students, while they're still working here. And the interns work physically here sometimes, but also physically at the office of TIGA sometimes, and that gives them an opportunity to stay grounded in both worlds.
It opened up some ideas of the rest of the parts of the university that they could leverage from Ignition specifically as a piece of software. You know, Abigail is in computer science. I majored in computer science. Everyone in this building is an electrical engineer or some type of mechanical engineer, but it brought informatics students, it brought in computer science students into this building to work with the rest of the engineers here to learn different aspects about how the software that they could provide or that they could configure can impact things that they necessarily didn't think it would in the first place or didn't have interest with in the first place.
Before, I had no idea what Ignition was or even what SCADA was. I got introduced from a member of the lab, and they're like, we need somebody to work on our Ignition system, and they need to know some sort of coding. First, I started off at the lab where I was kind of learning the solar nomenclature and about the equipment and devices. And then eventually, once TIGA was ready, I was able to integrate and work on the Ignition system. I still had some Ignition experience once I was at the lab, but TIGA kind of fully put me into Ignition, and I was able to directly work on it while having the knowledge of what the testing center needed specifically.
So the students get real-world experience before they even graduate. So after graduation, their transition to working either with TIGA or another company is much easier.
And in this case, it's almost direct. You could potentially get hired on with an integration firm or with a company directly to build these things that you've already done here. It is one-to-one, and that rarely ever happens.
We've been able to get real-world training for our students and provide a pathway for them to move into well-paying industry jobs, which is what we want for all of our graduates, in areas that they're excited about.
This definitely was a good exposure to Ignition, and having the pipeline where I started off at the solar lab made it definitely helpful because I was able to learn what was important and how everything worked.
A lot of us here at TIGA graduated from the university, and we wanted to be able to give something back to teach some of the things that we didn't really know during the time that we were in school. Reaching out to Inductive Automation and their response quickly without any type of more questioning other than it's for a university, yeah, we can do that. They would reach out, ask us, how are things going? Is there anything else that was needed? Or if, we were reaching out to ask for additional modules or licensing to be able to test certain things, they were all ears and extremely responsive. It made you feel like they actually cared about what was going on here. You don't get that very often.
Specifically for our case, we have all of our solar modules laid out in our main array, which is 1.1 megawatts. All the power generated from those lead up to the inverter, where we're able to turn the direct current into alternating current, which is how we use the power. Luckily, with our inverter devices, we're able to collect data from those, and it translates into a device called the data logger that we use here. So we're able to kind of pull what data we have and name it our own way, kind of keeping the same naming convention for everything, whether it's like strings, arrays, inverters. We're able to kind of process that and see what can we pull as a measurement, power, voltage, current, and then also we can display that on our Ignition system where people can process and monitor the data.
The ease of the data visualization has really improved our response time for maintenance, so issues can be picked up very easily since we have a dashboard that we keep up all of the time. And since multiple people have access to this data and view these dashboards, there are more of us involved, more members of the lab that are involved with kind of keeping an eye on things and being able to address these issues quickly.
Since we are a testing center, we're getting different equipment and devices on our field to test and monitor for whether it's research or industry partners. So we need to be able to add those devices and monitor those in our Ignition system. For me, it's relatively easy to make changes to the system because I'm able to launch Designer, make my changes and save them, and they're automatically deployed to our perspective session.
Since we're a research lab, our projects are kind of always changing. They're heavily dependent on what type of funding we have, so there's no way to predict in any sort of extended time in the future what exactly our projects will look like. So having this knowledge of the scalability of the software is super important, and it takes kind of one thing off of the list to worry about when planning new projects, since we know that we'll be able to integrate Ignition with it regardless.
There's always some plans to expand and add new features to our system, especially since we are a regional testing center. We're constantly getting new equipment, new devices to be able to test, monitor, whether it's for research or industry.
Our university has a saying that we do research for a reason, and with the tools that are provided to us by Ignition, it's really easy for us to show the reason for our research, both in cost savings and energy and our impacts on the environment. At our facility, we frequently give tours to members of the public, all the way down from pre-K to kindergarten students to our local politicians, members of the university. We typically give about 2 of these tours a week, and showing them the Ignition dashboard is the point where what the folks see in the field, they're able to connect with the data being measured and really understand the purpose of what we're doing here and how it works by seeing the data measurements coming directly from the field. We can show folks here, but also share it on a website or remotely where people can see, I think is very powerful. And before we had something like this with the easy visualization, it was kind of hard to communicate exactly kind of like the magnitude of what we're doing. It's easy to tell somebody that we produce 1.1 megawatts, but a number without any sort of visualization or tying it to something that they can connect to doesn't really resonate with most people. So having the Ignition system that allows us to visualize is helpful, but also modules on our dashboard that tell us how much carbon dioxide we're saving, how many trees we're equating our production to. Those sorts of pieces of information I think are very valuable. I feel like as researchers, sometimes we kind of get lost in our own world and what we do and forget that we have to find a way to communicate that to people who don't have anything to do with this, and I think Ignition is helpful in doing that.
If you're looking for something that you can potentially think outside of the box and you need something that will assist you along the way, I would definitely recommend reaching out, I guess, to the engagement program specifically, but more so Ignition as a piece of software. It lends itself to that ability to kind of pivot in places that you didn't think it would be able to. It feels like Inductive understands from that standpoint. It was developed by guys that wanted you to do these things first, and then from that point forward, you grow with it. It's kind of built for an exploratory sense. It's built for someone like a college student that has all these ideas and can fit them all under one roof. I wish I had something like this available to me when I was in school. I really do.